Hey there, just wanted to bring you a quick brief message about the power of no. I'm big on that. No is a complete sentence, and so I'm going to read you this. If you're not sure, it's a no. If you don't want to, it's a no. If you're not ready, it's a no. If your intuition says no, it's a no. If it feels bad, forced, fake, uncomfortable, or weird, it's a no. Maturity is saying no without apologizing when enforcing your boundaries. So just another reminder, no is a complete sentence. You don't owe anybody anything. And with that, I hope you have a peaceful day. Something I want you to think about is, as you heal, you begin to do an inventory of yourself. You begin to do an inventory of what people have done to you. And a lot of times, it's very hard to sit with that because you start to think about all the stuff you allowed and how people mistreated you. But something I want you to think about is when you start to get that negativity and thinking about seeking revenge, understanding that rotten fruit will fall by itself. Cheers to 4 years of being in business here at A Peaceful Mind Counseling. Cheers to having over 4,665 sessions of healing with my clients. Cheers to all 60 of my clients, and a special cheers to my OG clients that have been with me since day one.
Hey y'all, this is Dee.
And this is Shelbie.
And we're from Bitch Please. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you guys can see, we do have a special guest today, and we do have with us Ashley Harris.
Hello.
She's actually my line sister, my sorority sister, line sister. She has her own practice. She is a licensed therapist,
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
She's an LCSW. Oh. That's what I meant.
Okay.
She specializes in cognitive behavioral
therapy. She'll tell you all about it herself.
She has her own practice, and we wanted to talk to her today because she does deal with mental health, and we just wanted to get her input on just all of the things regarding her profession and her life. So everybody, please welcome Ashley.
Hey, hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Harris. I am a licensed therapist here in Connecticut. I have a practice. I have my practice for a matter of fact, I started my practice during the pandemic in 2020 at my kitchen table. So I've been in practice for about 4 years, but I've been a therapist for almost 15 years. So yeah. And I specialize in cognitive behavior therapy, dialectical behavior therapy. And one of the things I do treat, and I specialize in trauma-informed therapy, anxiety, depression. And I also do self-esteem coaching and coaching around difficulties in the workplace, difficulties navigating relationships, or just in general.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pronounced that second word because I couldn't pronounce
it. It's okay. We typically call it DBT. You can call it DBT.
I was like,
we did our best. Honestly, we sat here and we tried to read it at least 17 times.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Definitely tried our best. But before we get started, as we typically do, how are your screws?
Yep. They're good. They're not bad.
Okay.
They're not bad. They're not bad. I had a day off today.
Yes.
It was nice.
Okay.
I was a whole couch potato.
Nice.
Literally from morning until the time I got here, I was chilling all up in my couch.
Nice.
I like to be inside. I'm an inside girly. I don't want to be outside. Outside is wild.
Yeah.
It's too much outside. I want to sit in my sweats. I want to play my video games. I want to watch my shows. And that's it. That's pretty much what I did today.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it was good for me to just kind of sit and take some me time and really take some personal time for myself. But people just decided last minute to get on my nerves. Any hoozle, how are your screws?
Screws are a little frazzled.
You don't say.
It's been a day. Work wasn't bad, but it was work.
Yeah,
it was chill, but it was work.
Yeah.
And then I had to run home because I have a bunch of bees outside of my house.
Yes,
that have been coming inside of my house.
Honeybees.
Oh, that video. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we had to get that handled.
Yeah.
But she did a great job, and I'm very happy with the overall outcome so far. I know in the next couple of days it should be good to go, but yeah, outside of that, I was cool.
Yeah.
I'm chilling. I'm hungry.
No, same.
So my screws are they're just
people are a little sluggish in there.
They're a little sluggish. They don't have much energy, but we are here today. So Ashley, how are your screws?
My screws are pretty good. I just got back from vacation, so I can't complain. I'm doing pretty good, but jumping right back into things. So I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where did you, if you want to share, where did you go for your vacation?
I went on a carnival cruise to the Bahamas. So it was very nice, very hot. It was definitely, carnival was a vibe, but it was very nice. I swam with dolphins and stingrays. Stingrays I was a little bit afraid of. Probably
Sure.
won't do that again. But the sea
Yeah,
lions I love, the dolphins I love. But yeah, it was
that's
definitely a
dope.
great
Yeah.
vacation.
I need a vacation
Thanks.
very badly.
Yes.
Very, very, very
100%.
badly. But you know, it is what it is. We'll get there when we get there.
Yep.
So I know you gave a little intro of what you do and all of that. And you said it when you started your practice. What made you start your own practice over, working up under somebody?
I want to say it was like during the pandemic, and I remember I had a colleague and she had started her practice and she was like, you should really do it. And at the time I was also working in another practice, and the woman, she interviewed me, because I want to say it was probably like a year after I got my license, she always kept saying to me, she's like, whenever you're ready, I'll help you. And I was like, okay.
Nice.
And she was like, I'll help set you up. I'll give you everything. So during the pandemic, she just kept sending me text messages about how you create like an LLC. And I was like, is she trying to push me out? And she finally said to me, she was like, hey, I really think you should do your own thing. And like a lot of people, I had clients who were like, you should really have your own practice. I could like, because I would leave jobs and they're like, how do I find you? And I'm like, well, I'm working at this whole other place that doesn't take your insurance. And so during the pandemic, I was just kind of feeling like kind of burnt out. And I was working for two different practices. And I was like, why don't I do my own thing? And so I sat there and I had a name. I wrote the name in a notebook. I wrote like a peaceful mind counseling, and I had it in a notebook from like a year ago. And I finally was like, let me look at the instructions she gave me, because it was in the text thread. And I went, and 10 minutes later I had an LLC.
I know that's right.
And I was like, but a lot of times, like, I felt like fear was stopping me because I was scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's the middle of the pandemic. Did it take me a while to figure out what I was doing? Yes. Do I still make mistakes? Absolutely. But I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I think everybody gets hooked on fear. You know what I mean? Like fear will stop you from doing all sorts of amazing, great things in life.
For sure.
Yeah, fear is definitely like false evidence appearing real. I tell my clients that all the time. I'm like, hey,
oh, I love that. Say that again.
One more time.
False evidence appearing real.
Yes. Is that a new tattoo?
Right.
I love that.
I like it a lot.
It's true though. That's very accurate.
I love the name that you came up with for your practice. I think it is it sounds super inviting and very calming.
Yeah,
and
it does.
I know you said that you had written it down in a notebook from a year prior. How did you come up with the name?
So during the pandemic, I joined a yoga group, and I remember they were giving out. They were actually offering like a free scholarship for women of color to do like a free yoga, because they felt like the yoga space didn't have like enough like Black and brown people. So I remember I was doing like a spiritual retreat, and I was getting trained to be like a Reiki practitioner. And I remember something that kept coming up in my meditation was like peace, 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 peace. And I was just sitting there and I was like, I don't know. I wrote it down and I was like, it's something about peace. And I remember like I did like this 45-minute meditation, and like the person that I met in the meditation, they brought me on this journey. And at the end of it, it was like green, and there was like the words peace. And I don't know where, I just like wrote it down in a notebook, and I was like, I kept the notes. And then one day I was sitting there and I was like, what would I name my business? And I was like, A Peaceful Mind, because I felt like a lot of people strive for peace in their life. And I think that's a big thing people are going for, because when you're at peace, so much stuff can happen in your life. You're able to see clearly, able to think clearly. You're able to just to like be. And I think that's like such a beautiful place to be in life.
Oh
I
yeah.
agree.
Oh yeah. We talked about that on the last episode too. Just want
your peace. What something that we talked about was like what peace looks like for you.
Yeah.
And so because we talked about that, what does peace look like for you?
Peace looks like honestly just being okay if things don't go okay, and being okay if they don't. Like just like literally just being, and not like worrying about too much. Because I feel like in life things are going really fast, and we tend to like look at the things that aren't happening, but we don't focus on the things that are happening. Because I feel like a lot of times I teach with my clients too, that they focus on everything that's falling apart, but they don't look at all the strides they have made. So I feel like for me, it's just like literally being, and being able to wake up and just like be at peace. And sometimes it's not necessarily that, but it's the fact that I'm able to identify like, what do I need to do for myself?
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that
a lot.
So I have a quick question. Did you always want to be a therapist, or is this like something that came about just during your studies, or how did you come into this field?
So this is kind of a bit of a story. So when I was in high school, I went to a tech high school, and I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I remember I applied for like, what was it called? I think they actually closed it recently, but I think it was called the New York Art Institute. And I applied for that one, and I applied for the one also in Philly, and I wanted to be a fashion designer. I remember my dad Mind you, my dad back in the day, he didn't know how to use a computer. And I remember he pulled out all these statistics about how people who went to fashion design school like didn't make it. And he
Oh,
was just like, he
Damn.
wasn't trying to like discourage me, but he was just like, I need you, like, he was like, you're the first person in the family.
That's
And he was
rough.
just like, yeah, he was just showing me all this stuff. And he was like, what if you go to college and they have no dorms? And I was like, I wasn't really thinking about this stuff. So he said to me, he's like, let's make an agreement that if you go to college, like a 4-year college and get a degree, I'll pay for you to go to fashion school. So I remember I had a cousin who went to Wilberforce University, and she went back in the 60s. So she asked me to come over her house, and I go over there and she tells me this story about how she was playing basketball in the 60s. And some people came in this car and they were like, do you want to go to college? And she was like, yeah. And so the next day, one of my cousins, Billy, drove her down to Ohio and she went to college. And she was like, it's HBCU. So at the time, she had called Reverend Floyd Flake, and I was like her frat brother because she was an AKA. And she called him on the phone. She was like, I need you to get my cousin into college. And the next day, like, they sent me all this stuff. And I was like, I ain't gonna have to do nothing.
Okay, connect.
And so I ended up going to Wilberforce. And I remember my dad was driving me down there and he was like, business management. You got to open a business. You got to study that. And I remember I met everybody and they were doing business management or they were doing biology. I don't like numbers and I don't like science. So then I had met somebody who did social work and I was like, I don't know what social work is, but I want to do it. But I always knew I wanted to like be in a field where I help people. So that's when I started like learning about social work. And I was like, I don't know necessarily like what I want to do. And I think at that point I wanted to work with kids and substance abuse. So that's why I got into it, like at Wilberforce. And kind of the rest is like, then I got my first job. No, matter of fact, it was my first job. I worked in a group home. And then I realized I didn't want to work with kids because some kids were beating us up. They were putting their hands on us. And I was like,
I bet they were.
Yeah, spitting on people. And it was like a third shift job and I was doing it while I was in grad school, but I was like,
Third
this ain't
shift
for me.
job? Oh my God.
Third shift. That's where I wrote all my
That
papers in grad
definitely
school.
sounds like the job that you get right out of college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it definitely just sounds like a job you get right out of college.
Yeah, I didn't have any experience. And they were like, well, we'll just, hire you, have a degree. And I was like, okay. And then I started, I did it for 2 years. And after that, once I got my degree, I was like, I'm gonna go get me a nice desk job where I sit and talk to people. I don't got no kids spitting on me, attacking me. I had kids slash my tires before, my brand new tires.
Oh my God.
It was a mess. And I was like, I'm okay. Love kids. Sometimes I do work with kids in my practice, but now I'm more so towards adolescents and adults at this point.
Oh my
That's
God.
wild.
So yeah.
I'm like, I
it
don't
was
get paid
crazy.
enough for this.
I mean, those kids in a group home,
No,
they got it rough,
They do got it rough,
This
but
is
like
their
my
outlet,
tire-
but also
I'm trying
I
to
don't.
help you. What you do last about tires?
But also,
for?
I don't have to tolerate it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like that's crazy.
I'm like, catch me outside.
Facts.
Right. But something I think about when we work with kids
therapy.
too.
I'll give you an whole ass whooping after therapy.
But something when you work with kids too is like a lot of times you're just a target. Like kids are upset with somebody and they can't necessarily tell the person because a lot of kids, they were like displaced from their homes or they were moved and they couldn't tell their mom or their dad or their aunt or whoever, they were living with. So they were like, I'm going to get pissed off and I'm going to throw something at you because my mom didn't show up for the visit. So sometimes like we kind of like took that into account. But at the same time, like getting berated by a kid sometimes was like you were saying, like, I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's crazy.
It has to put you in like a space. How do you handle something like that? Like outside of just leaving, like, but on your day-to-day prior to you deciding to leave, how do you handle that mentally?
Yeah.
So a big thing I learned early on, like before I became a therapist, is like, matter of fact, when I was in grad school was, they mentioned like every therapist needs a therapist. So I've been in therapy since I've been little, but utilizing therapy, supervision, a lot of trainings. Also, I never really ever had a kid ever attack me because I also learned in those moments that like I treated a kid with respect and I did the best I could to de-escalate. I let kids have space. And a lot of times, like since they respected me and we had a good relationship, I was like, and also when I worked in some of those group homes, I was like, these ain't my belongings. You want to tear the TV off the wall? Tear the TV off the wall. And I'm like, I'm just calling the police or something like that, or I'm talking to them. And also I felt like a lot of times there's respect, but also there were times that the kids were doing things like that. But it was a lot of therapy, a lot of like checking my emotions. And there was also times where, I had to like go in the bathroom and have a moment because it's a lot. And a lot of times you get connected to the kids, or sometimes, it's just a lot to see different things like that. Cause like you hear their stories and you're like, I know the reason why they're like this. And it's like, a lot of it's not their fault, but it's like the circumstances.
Yeah.
So, and then some moments I had human moments where I'm like, F this, like, I'm not doing this. A few times I almost walked out of work. I had to call out, take a lot of breaks, a lot of different things like that. Because, when you're in the helping field too, a lot of people forget that you're human. I think that a lot of people forget that you're human. And I think that's a big thing I incorporate with my clients. Like I definitely always tell them like, I'm human just as much you. And I always like try to do a collaborative approach because I'm like, yes, I'm the expert in mental health, but I also say like, you're the expert in who you are. So I'm just a passenger. You're driving the bus. And I really want to, incorporate, that self-autonomy and, in that respect, but also saying like, I'm here to help you, but it's a collaborative approach, not like you're coming to me and I'm going to dictate your life. You're coming to me, you let me know what you want to work on and we go from there.
Yeah.
I just love your outlook and you dropping gems,
girl, left and right.
left and
Left and right. I'm gonna go back to my therapist and be like, what? She said
So
that's wild.
that is
though.
wild. And it's a
Working
great
in-
approach.
Yeah. But just working in that group home and stuff like
Yeah.
that, that's crazy. So after the group home, where'd you go after that?
After the group home, I actually went to a like high-end treatment facility.
Nice.
And it was like
okay, 180
out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, people were paying like I think it was like $30,000 a month, and it was in a really rural area in Connecticut. And it lacked a lot of diversity, so it was like a very different setting, but it was beautiful. It was like I was up in the mountains in Connecticut, and it was like they did a lot of holistic therapy, and I think that's where I got into holistic therapy because that's when I started like learning how to meditate, like a lot of deep breathing. They did also like sweat lodges with it, which is like part of like a Native American culture, but people would like they'll have the clients go because they would do like a 2-day retreat where they would go up in the mountain and like camp out, and then they would do the sweat lodge. And I remember I did one of them, and it was like really powerful where people were like in there chanting and they were like releasing stuff, and it was hot and it was like muddy and dark, and it was really spiritual. But I remember at the time when I first got there, I used to like always struggle with meditation and different things like that, and I was just like, I don't know about all this, like, because it used to be really hard for me to quiet my mind. But as I got into it, I really started realizing the benefits of it. And that's some of the things I teach my clients. And it was like a really, really beautiful job, but it was like at least an hour and 15 minutes from my house. And that was just one way. And it was too much. It was too much. And also substance abuse counseling is like one of my specialties, but it also is, it's a lot because you're actually like sitting with people like in the darkest moments of their life while they're battling addiction, while they're battling certain things. And it's like really, really difficult. And sometimes like the substances, like it's bigger than them. And it's a lot of deep rooted stuff. And it's a lot of different things. And I remember just like working there. And I remember like the first client I had was like the 75-year-old like woman. And she was there for alcoholism. And I remember she said to me, and I was like, I think I was fresh out of grad school. I had to be like 22, 23. I might've been like 24, maybe. I can't think of it. And she was like, I got underwear older than you. Like, what could you teach me about life? And I was like,
well, Miss Ma'am, I'm out here trying to help you. Like, she was okay. So how you gonna talk some shit?
Yeah, she was like, I really don't have nothing that she's like, I don't want to hear nothing from you. And she was like a tough woman, but I remember at the end before she left, she had hugged me, but she ran me through the ringer. She was like, I'm not listening to you. You ain't got nothing to tell me.
That's crazy.
And I was just like, and I was a little bit, like insecure back then because I was fresh out of grad school. And a lot of times as therapists, so I think being a young therapist, like people like to test you. They're like, oh, you look younger than me. And even when I worked with the kids, I still looked like a kid. And so some of them, like some of the kids were 18 and I was like 22. So we weren't that far off from each other. And some of them was like you're the same size as me. You look like me. You're not that much older. So I think a lot of times, like when my first job, it was like very difficult, but it was also a very like beautiful place. And it also taught a lot of like holistic healing and the power of like just meditation and just mindfulness and how like also it was like, I forgot what they call it. It was like a venture-based therapy where you did high ropes course. That's like the first time I actually learned how to like meet my clients where they're at and also do something along with them. Because I remember like one time we did a group therapy exercise where we did the high ropes course. And a lot of the counselors never went with their clients. It would like be instructors. And they were like, how about one day you come up?
That's cool.
It is.
It was embarrassing because I was hugging the pole. Like my clients were cheering me on. They're like, come on, Ashley, come on, you can do this. And I'm afraid of heights. I was up there shaking.
Girl, same. I was literally just saying that. I was like, I could not. Sounds cool shit, but I could not.
And at the end, you have to like jump off like a platform, and then they like I guess belay. I think it's called belay. They belay you down, and I was just like, never again. That was the first and last time I ever did that. But I was proud of myself that I did, and I think it was also like a powerful like bonding moment with my clients because they were like, it's nice to see like our therapists like doing something alongside of us, and I think that's like one of the practices I definitely do with clients where I always share like I'm a therapist, but I'm also in therapy. Like I struggle with certain things, like I'm human just like you because I don't ever want my clients to not look at me like I'm human. And I definitely feel like that's also been like one of my working practices with my clients.
Yeah.
I think that's dope that you are showing them that you're participating in the things that they're going through, but you're also a person who's working on their own mental health journey. So I think that gives you that humanity that other people need to see.
Hell yeah.
I think that's dope.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that kept me with my current therapist was because she was like, oh yeah, I've been in therapy. Oh yeah, because I do EMDR therapy. And she was like, oh, I've done this. Oh, I've been in this. Oh, so the fact that I know that my therapist also has a therapist was like reassuring to me. You know what I mean? Like they're also doing their own thing. They're also like checking in with their own mental health. Like I'm not over here working with somebody who, is not doing the same things that I'm trying to do. So it's like, it's nice to have that.
It is really nice to have that, but it's also like, damn, we're all.
No, we are. But that's the cool thing. I'm not special. You know what I'm saying? We're all in our own way. I'm not special.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, we're all a little bent. We're all a little bit bent. We're not broken. Like we all need a little
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with it. Yep.
Just
gem. She was like.
Everyone, you need to write a book of quotables of just you saying some beautiful aspirational or affirmations.
Thank you. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
Do that, girl.
As you should.
Because that's amazing. You've been spot on this entire time.
Hell yeah.
For what? A few minutes, girl.
Yeah. Seriously, how long has it been? Oh my god, it's only been 20 minutes. That's it.
Oh, Frank just popped into the chat.
Hey Frank. Do we want to read any of the other comments?
So we have a comment from Amanda Bowl.
Yeah. That's my best friend.
Hello, Amanda. Welcome.
Hey, Amanda. So one of my questions, and I love to ask a lot of people this that are Black women, how has your experience been being a Black woman and working in this field and just interacting with folks? How has that experience been for you?
Ooh, okay. To be honest, like especially like living in Connecticut, I have always been a minority. And I've always been like one of one on a team. So sometimes it's been very isolating. And I want to say in my career, I've only had one Black supervisor. And it has been like very difficult. And there's also been times where, I've been challenged, especially when I worked at my first job. It was in a rural area and there was another Black staff member there. He was a Black male therapist. And it was a lot of challenging things. There was a lot of times where I started questioning, like, should I do this? And it was a lot of times where it was like a lot of struggle, especially culturally. Like I would be called racial slurs and I was still asked to work with the client. And that made me feel like unprotected. And there's also been times where I had matter of fact, I had another Black supervisor. But it's been difficult, but it's also been very rewarding. But I think I had to really find that outlet and find that job. Because I want to say my last job, it was like at City Black Health, which was like a startup based out of Brooklyn. It was definitely a different kind of experience, very lax job. And that was like the first time, matter of fact, that was like my second Black supervisor, who was also like one of my best friends. And it was like a situation where, I was like, she kind of gave me the ability to be who I am as a therapist. Like she was like, fuck the box. She used to always say that to me, fuck the box. And I've never had that happen to me working in works. Everywhere I worked, it was like literally do all this textbook therapy by the books. And some of that stuff doesn't work for people of color. It doesn't work for Black and Brown population. And sometimes it doesn't work just people in general, because some of that stuff is very like outdated. And sometimes I'm big on really making therapy about my clients. And I'm like, take this skill, use it as your own. I don't care if you have to count to 10 instead of count to 5, like whatever it is, do it for yourself. But it's been, I want to say, a very rewarding process, because there's been so many times I worked with like Black girls who look like me, had the same story as me. And there's also been moments where I struggled because it was a lot of like transference too, like a counter transference. Like I would have a moment where, I grew up in a household where my mom wasn't present and my mom was addicted to drugs. And I would meet a lot of women that were addicted to drugs and I was asked to counsel them. And it would be very hard. Sometimes I would question myself, like, should I be doing this? But there was also moments where I was able to connect with them and really help them through their darkest times and also like heal myself, if that makes sense. And I think that's another reason why.
That is beautiful.
Where I was able to get them help them get their children back, or help them just have a difficult conversation, or help them get a house or something, or get housing and different things like that. But it has been like a challenge, but also like when I look at it right now and like when I think about it, it has made me into the person that I am. I feel like even though in those moments I felt like it was breaking me, because it felt like it was, but it was also molding me to be really resilient and to advocate for people, for also to stand on things. And working at my last job, I would work on an interdisciplinary team. And it would be like medical doctors, a psychiatrist. It'd be like people who had like degrees.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was in a meeting and this doctor was trying to tell us that this woman had, she had like a behavioral health, like she had like a personality disorder. And I remember sitting there in that meeting and I'm like thinking to myself, like, you're a medical doctor. And something I had learned at that job was doctors, they're like general practitioners. They learn pretty much every single like category of doctors, but they only specialize in one thing. He specialized in general medicine. And I thought about it and I was like, I specialize in mental health. This is my area. And I had to check him. And I had to be like, hey,
as you should.
I was like, this is not a personality disorder. This is trauma. And this is how trauma shows up. And it could mimic something, but it's not. And I was like, this is also a woman that lives in a rural area and she's African American and she's scared of the medical system.
Yeah.
And that was like one of those moments where
fair.
Where I had to step into my power. And I feel like those are the moments. And I thought about all those challenges I had back then where I kind of was like, I felt like my voice was crippled. And I felt like in those moments, like in that moment when I was working, I was like, I got to stand up for this woman. I got to stand up for myself and I got to check him. And he was like, I apologize. And he like pulled me to the side and he was like, I'm sorry. I will stay in my lane. I am not a therapist. This is not my thing. And I was like, oh.
Okay.
Yes.
At least there was some accountability.
Yes. I mean,
but you had to put him in his place for that to happen.
But I think it's important to see people like us in those fields because especially in the Black community, actually in a lot of communities that are in any form of ethnic, therapy and things are not something that we talk about going to. I mean, now it's becoming more of a thing, but like most families are like, oh, go to church or, oh, you just need to work harder or, oh,
yeah,
you
100%.
And it's cool to see somebody who looks like you in the field that you're in because it's helpful. It lets you know like, okay, I'm not tripping. Like we all can benefit from different things. And I just think it's beautiful. I do. I really think it's beautiful.
Absolutely. I agree.
I do too.
Let me see. We got some comments.
We got
girl.
some. She said, hey, thank you. Happy you're here.
Happy you're here.
Thanks for the support.
Oh, yeah.
That's my sister.
You know what's so crazy? I remember seeing pictures of her when she was little. A little girl.
Aww.
That's crazy.
I feel like you kind of like grew up with my sister.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll never forget. Oh, man. Anyway, it's crazy. And then this is my cousin. She's also in social work.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, Tomo.
Hey, Tomo. I know you can hear us, girl. Hopefully we're not too loud.
Nice.
But
that's crazy cool. I just want to make, I felt like I heard you correctly. You said your mom was an alcoholic or this was somebody else?
My mom was alcoholic. She was addicted to drugs. Still is struggling with that. So she wasn't really present in my life. I was raised by my dad. Actually, he raised me and my sister as a single dad, and it was like him and my grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that may have like affected your decision to become a therapist?
Absolutely. Because I feel like, my dad was around and my grandmother was, but I also felt like, I felt alone. Like, and I think because nobody really knew what that was like. And my dad did the best he could. Like, my dad put me in therapy, put me in Girl Scouts. He got me mentors and different things like that. But I also think too, like, when I was born, my grandmother was, I hate to say it, she was really old. My grandma, I think when I was born, my grandma was like 74. Wow. And she had my dad later in life. I think she had my dad when she was like about 40. So she had him like in the 60s at 40 years old, which was not that really common. So I feel like my grandma would give me gems and certain things, but a lot of her information was like very it was a little bit outdated. Like I remember even going to prom and she made me put black stockings on. She was like, they could see your legs and that's being fast. And I was like, I got like a full being fast and she meant well, but there was like some things like I couldn't go to her about. Like my grandma, I remember I told her I wanted to go swimming and I was like, hey, I want to buy tampons. She was like, only whores use tampons. I was like 13. I was like, I just want to go to the pool for the summer. Like, and so
I have never heard that in my whole life. And my grandma,
she said loose women wear tampons. That's what she said. Excuse me, that wasn't whores, but loose women. And I was like, loose? Like
you took Deidre out with that one.
And she would say things. She was like so serious. But I definitely
thank her for this moment.
Like I really wanted to connect with like young girls and I really wanted like to like give back because I felt like, just I didn't have that. And sometimes, like I said, it has been a struggle because even like with motherhood, I feel like, like growing up without a mom, I feel like, I'm this mom to my son that I didn't have for myself.
Yeah.
And that is like very, powerful. And sometimes I struggle with that because I'm given from a place that I don't know what that feels like. And, my son has like security and a strength and different things like that. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm pulling from an empty place. but also
Yeah.
it's a bit of a struggle. But I'm also appreciative of the fact that my son is like well-rounded. He has all 4 of his grandparents, like on both sides. Like he has like, you know, his dad in his life, and he can just call up anybody. Like he'll call my sister if he needs something, he'll call my dad, he'll call his dad. He just has like so much love. And sometimes it's a bit of it's a struggle to see that, because I didn't have that. But I'm also, I think it's beautiful that I could give him that. But I also have to sometimes acknowledge like my inner child and sometimes my struggles with that too as well.
Yeah, girl.
I think it is beautiful that you're able to give that to your son, and that you didn't, because it's always so interesting that people, depending on how they grow up, they can go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And the fact that you chose to go the direction of, I'm going to give my son what I didn't have, instead of going the direction of, I'm going to be exactly like how my mom was, is it's beautiful, because you do see that sometimes where people just can't figure out the balance, and they're like, well, I didn't have this, so you won't either, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's great, and you should be very proud of yourself, girl.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hell yeah. And as somebody who comes from a family where it was primarily my dad, you know what I mean? Like my mom was also, well, they were both alcoholics, but my mom was a lot worse, and she still has a huge issue with it. But I think it's crazy cool to hear you talk about the fact that what you go through having your son and not really knowing, you know what I mean? Like you didn't have the mother figure in your life, and yet you still have a well-rounded son. You have a son who's out here like really doing his, you know, really doing his thing. And so I think it's very beautiful to hear that, you know.
I agree.
Gives people like me some hope.
No, honestly, it gives a lot of people hope. I just like the healing. I know you've talked about healing and all of that. What has healing looked like for you?
Yeah.
Healing has been it has been a crazy process. It has been moments where it physically hurt, has been moments where I was crying on the floor, has been moments where I've been laughing. It's been moments where I was like, I'm not doing this no more. Because I feel like as you heal, like it's something that's lifelong and it's ongoing. And sometimes I'd be feeling like, I'd be asking the universe, I'm like, I just healed these 10 things. Why I got 10 more? But it's also been my lifeline. I feel like if I did not heal, and I remember like doing probably like a year and a half ago, I did EMDR, and I did like these sessions. It was like 2 4-hour sessions. And I remember at first I was doing it with a therapist, and I remember like I wanted to go into therapy, and I wanted to like blame my son's father for all this stuff. And I remember like the therapist, I was like, no, okay, sorry, I got kicked out. I don't know what happened. I remember sitting there with the therapist, and I remember her saying like, you know, I remember getting upset, and I was saying, oh, the reason why I have all these issues is because my son's father. And she was like, no, because I remember telling her my story, and she was like, no, this goes back to like you and your relationship with your mother. And I remember in my head, I was like, I'm leaving. Like I was sitting there like, I'm about to leave, and she was like, sit down.
Sometimes you need that.
And she was like, so she helped me reframe how I looked at my mom and how I looked at healing, because I think for a long time I was like really angry and resentful with my mom, because I remember like when I got pregnant, my mom had said something to me along the lines of like, having kids really ruined my life. And mind you, I was pregnant with my son, and I was standing there like, I'm her kid. She just said having kids ruined her life. But I remember I was sitting with a therapist, and I remember I was telling like her my mom's story, and she said, have you ever thought about like the fact that your mom looked at life and she maybe looked at it as if maybe she was better off not having kids because she couldn't provide the life that she wanted for her kids.
Oh my God, I'm about to fall
out.
You don't know what you're about to do right now.
Don't even
in that moment, it shifted how I looked at healing, and it shifted at the fact that like sometimes like that shit hurts. And sometimes you have to reprogram how you look at things. And you have to like relook at it. And it really shifted how I looked at my mom, how I looked at myself. But I feel like healing is like my lifeline, and healing is something that I have to do, and I have to continue to do it. And I encourage people to do, but I also encourage people to heal out loud and do it however you want. And sometimes like therapy isn't always for everybody. And I say that to people because some people can't tolerate it. But I always tell people, I'm like, find God, find whatever spirituality you have, find something, get with nature, exercise, food, find a community, read a book. There's so many different resources, but healing is like something that is like a must for me. But healing sometimes has kicked my, has like, felt like I got punched in the stomach, but it was also moments where I'm happy that I healed because it changed how I looked at life. It changed how I help people. And sometimes even I have clients that are really resistant, and I sit with them. I'm like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. And sometimes it takes them a year to navigate through something. And I tell them that because it took me years. I used to be, before like 2018, I used to be like, I'm good. I don't need therapy. I'm over here teaching people. And then there was some stuff that happened, and I was like, I'm a little messed up. I'm not doing well. And I thought I was okay. And I think also therapy taught me to be okay with not being okay. Like I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be a perfectionist. And I also realized that sometimes I'm anxious and I have real bad high functioning anxiety, and sometimes I gotta sit. And I be telling my clients, like, I'm like, come up with a mantra, and I'm always telling myself to chill. And my friends could tell you, they're always like, Ashley, you gotta chill out, like you're so anxious. And I never knew I was anxious until I actually like sat down and did like intensive therapy, and I was like, ooh, I'm an anxious girly. I got high functioning anxiety, but I'm also like,
Yeah.
it benefits me in some ways, but I also feel like just healing has just been my lifeline. And I always tell people to heal, but I also feel like it's uncomfortable and it comes in waves. And sometimes you think you're done and you find out some more things, but it's also like, it's the most valuable thing aside from like my spirituality.
Hell yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more.
I think just your healing journey is never done. You know what I mean? Especially for those who have gone through such extensive trauma, you know, at a young age. Like your healing journey is never over. And there's always going to be something else that pops up that you're going to have to heal through, you know, and you might have the tools to be able to do it, or you might have to go find somebody else who's going to give you the tools. But I feel like my best, and I don't know about you, Dee, but I feel like my biggest healing moments were the most painful moments.
Yeah, I feel
the
like,
most painful.
You know, you see on social media a lot where everybody's like, I'm healing, and they look beautiful, and the sun's glowing,
there's like they've been airbrushed.
Yeah,
they
like
got lashes.
Everything, and then they seldom
Yeah.
show people crying in the corner, you know, throwing themselves on the floor. I throw tantrums in my personal space.
Hell yes.
When I'm going through some stuff, I'm not like a tantrum like a 2-year-old, but I will literally like throw myself on the bed and just get that out and then keep going. But they don't show the part where you're ugly crying or you're depressed because you're trying to figure out stuff. Because one of the big things of healing is like sometimes you lose people, you lose situations, you lose like you just there is a lot of loss sometimes during your healing stages, and it can be rough.
It's painful. It can be
painful.
super painful.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, and I'm thinking back like when the day before I went to the courthouse to sign my divorce papers. I hadn't been able to process everything because everything was moving so quick and blah, 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 blah. And I had to go from this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
But then I had a very long 3-hour therapeutic crying session in the shower, and it was ugly and it was messy and it wasn't cute. It was if somebody had walked in on me, they would have been like, who's dying?
Right.
Who's dying? So the fact that this is like, you know, like those are the moments where you heal the most, in my opinion. Like, I don't know.
No,
Absolutely. Those rock bottom moments, those moments where I'm crying my lashes off and it's
all the
head
not coming down the lip quiver.
It's like,
girl, just going through it.
Yeah.
Just going through it all. I just wanted to pop up this comment that you got, girl. She's very proud. Everybody's proud of you, girl. You're doing big things, like
big things.
Again, the fact that you are a Black woman in this episode is huge. And keep doing your thing. Girl.
I love that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I just love the fact that you're healing as you're healing others.
Yeah.
I just think that's dope.
It's so cool.
It's really cool.
It's so cool.
It's really, really cool.
I feel like you get into situations and you meet people, and I don't know if you feel the same way, Ashley, but you get in these situations, especially like, you know, clients or whatever, people you meet outside, or, you know, or if you're like Deidre, anywhere you go, she just knows everybody's whole life story. But it's like when you meet these people, like sometimes you get a different perspective and you can see things a little differently. Like some of the gems that you've dropped today and some of the stuff that you said, especially like with me and my own mom and like my own issues with her. You know, it just like it's cool how we're able to like, I don't know, heal through that.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like kind of what she mentioned earlier, getting that perspective is key.
Hell yeah.
Because I know, I'll be honest, like there's been times when it came to just dealing with my parents in general and having to look at them as just people, not my parents, just two human beings that are just making it through life. And I'm like, you know, I don't want to say you give a lot of grace, but it does change your mindset on just how to function and how to manage and maneuver with those people.
Hell yeah. Because the little me inside is like, especially when it comes to parents, that's always the one that usually takes the forefront of any situation with them. So it's like, you know, I have to kind of switch that out and like look at it like you said, you know, like you're just people. You're people who happen to have a baby.
Yeah, literally.
I was like,
literally that. I'll be honest, my little me has been on one lately,
girl.
Little me, I had to tell her ass to sit down because this little she was on some shit.
I'm telling you.
But
That's been mine. That's been mine today. My little me has been, well, she's more like, because I have a dissociative disorder too. So one of my little ego states came out, and that, like I told you when I was driving here, one of my little ego states came out, and she was a little angsty teenager, and I was like, hey girl, it's cool. Like
we got this.
we're good. Adult me is in control. It's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
You gotta talk to your inner child. You gotta talk yourself
Hell
through it.
yeah.
All right. Mhm.
And it's so funny because for the longest, I didn't really think about it like that. Like I heard people talking to your inner child and things like that, but it never really I don't know if I really processed that information well until I did. And then I was like, damn, I got to talk to this girl because she tripping.
Yeah.
Like, girl, we got this. We going to be all right.
We're going to be all right. Sometimes that inner child just needs a little TLC, just a little love. She feeling a little needy. She's coming out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's crazy because you kind of have to play mama.
Yeah.
You gotta play mama.
Yeah.
You have to reprint yourself. You have to really love yourself, and or also allow yourself to be a kid. Like there's times I tell clients, I'm like, hey, or even for myself, color, go play outside, go play jump rope, do some stuff that you would do as a kid, because sometimes it really heals your inner child, and it's okay to do those things. I think sometimes as adults we're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna go play with kids. And sometimes even with my son, I had to teach myself to do stuff as a kid and laugh and watch a kiddie movie. And I'm like, I don't gotta be this hardcore adult and be serious all the time. Sometimes I could laugh and do stuff.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to take life super serious.
No. Sometimes you can just go ahead and
just be goofy and
just be
weird
goofy.
stuff. Honestly,
or throw yourself on the bed and throw a temper tantrum.
Honestly, it makes me feel great.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I have. It's so weird because I have my little child state where I'm throwing tantrums in the bed, and then I have my late teen, early 20 self that is what she does is she twerks in the mirror in the morning.
Hell yeah.
To get herself together. If you ever feel bad, bounce that ass in front of the mirror. And
hell yeah. And you feel so
It's a great start to your day.
It really is.
It is a great start to your day.
But, absolutely. Movement.
All about movement. That's all it is. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you have any words of wisdom or advice to give to people who are trying to figure out whether or not they want to do therapy, how they should find a therapist? What would be some advice you would give to those people who may be very new to therapy?
I would tell people to interview, I wouldn't say finding a therapist is dating, but ask questions. Think about questions that are important to you, but also do research on therapy, but be okay with interviewing people, be okay with asking questions. And because, I always provide a 15-minute consultation. Look for a therapist that does a 15-minute consultation, and also look for a therapist that does a free one, because a lot of people be out here charging people for consultations, which is not cool. But think about what would you want in a therapist? Sometimes certain people want a therapist that's a little older in age or looks very similar to them, maybe just culturally wise, different things like that. But ask questions, things that are important to you. Do you want the therapist to be very open and honest with you? Do you want somebody that's gonna walk you through things? Do you want homework? Do you want somebody to you could list out things you want to work on? Because I have some clients who give me a list. They're these are the 5 things I want to work on over the period of time. Some people are I'm just gonna come in, we're gonna free ball it. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But also some really great search engines are Therapy for Black Girls. They have Therapy for Black Men, Psychology Today. Calling your insurance company. A lot of times people forget about those resources. You can call your insurance company and say, put them to work and say, I need 5 therapists in my area that specialize in this. Also, YouTube is a great resource. TikTok, asking, looking at questions, different type of therapy, different type of things, but also looking at somebody who is close, if you want to do in-person therapy or also telehealth, see if they offer both and different things like that. But definitely big on the phone consultation. And also, I would also say see if they do a video consultation, because sometimes you want to put a face to the person and you want to see them in person and see what the vibe is. Also being okay with firing a therapist. I'm big on in the first session when I meet with people, first in that therapy session, I always ask permission. I'm do you want to move forward and do you feel comfortable? Because a lot of times I have people that come in and I may not be that person. And I always say that to clients. And sometimes I have clients who do 3 sessions and they get what they need from me. And I'm not offended by it, because sometimes I could take people only so far, but also sometimes I may not be doing it for them, and be okay with that. And I always encourage clients. I'm you have to fire somebody. And it's not about being rude or malicious. Because I definitely understand it. Because sometimes I have people who I see for a year and they disappear and they don't come back, or they come back a year later, or sometimes therapy gets to be a lot, but ask questions, be okay with interviewing multiple therapists. That's okay too. I have people sometimes call me and say, you're the 3rd person I talk to. And, I'm going to go with the other person I want to go with. And I'm all right, absolutely. I'm just big on long as I can get you wherever you need to go. Also looking at logistics, when you look for a therapist, make sure they are in your area, because a lot of times with our licenses, we're only able to see people in that one area. Like today I had somebody call me from Atlanta, and I was like, I'm not licensed in Atlanta. I would love to help you, but I'm only in Connecticut. And also be okay with like looking at different types of therapy. Like there's so many different types of therapy where some people want Christian-based counseling that's out there. Some people want, counseling where it's just very like on the go. Some people like, I do walk and talks. I provide so many different types of therapy. Just ask questions and see what's out there for you. Also, sometimes group therapy is a great way. Sometimes they offer a lot of therapy sessions in churches. If you need like grief counseling, different things like that. They have like so many different things, but also some of the community centers offer like free therapy, or you could do it like on Zoom. Sometimes they have bigger platforms where like I know like other therapists do like, like self-esteem groups. Or I remember even the therapist I know, she does like, I forgot what it was called. It was like introduction to like online dating and how you navigate dating after a difficult breakup. There's like so many different types of things you can do, but also do your research, be okay with taking your time. And, again, ask a therapist a lot of questions, and, and it's kind of like interviewing somebody, like see what's really important for you, and like write down some things you want in a therapist. You want somebody who's honest, maybe a little bit gentle with you, somebody that's knowledgeable in this, different things like that.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for young Black women, just ethnic women in general who are getting into this field, just kind of where to go, what to do, what to expect sort of deal, and, just any advice to them in general?
I would say, first off, like a lot of my experiences, a lot of my training has come from on the job, and being okay with feeling a little bit lost, being okay with understanding that your first year, you're going to feel like overwhelmed. But also there's so much power in supervision. And also if you don't get good supervision at your job, you can pay for supervision. That has been one of the most powerful game changers, is like also learning how to network and pick people's brains. Because I have met so many women who have led me in so many different directions, that I've also like, hey, can I take you to coffee? That's how I got to where I'm at. Like I've met a lot of women in different groups. And it's like, I feel like I also learned that going to HBCU. It's like the power of networking, the power of going into a room, introducing yourself, and just like networking with people and taking their business card and like sending an email and saying, hey, I would love to like shadow you for a day or pick your brain about something. Because so many times I've asked different people who run businesses, I'm like, how did you get here? What did it look like? And they have like dropped gems on me, or also introduced me to people that like literally have helped my business so much. I would also say, taking your time, taking time for yourself. Also, don't let these jobs burn you out, because as you can see, like I forgot that woman, I saw that TikTok video with that woman who was working at the insurance company and didn't find her till 4 days later. Like, do not let these jobs stress you out.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, do not let these jobs and these businesses stress you out. And just the power of no, and also like sticking to your boundaries. Because there are a lot of times I have worked in a lot of nonprofits that I have been asked to do stuff that felt not right to me, and it was unethical, and I had to speak up. And there's been times I've been let go or walked out because I said no to something. But also like sticking to your guns, and also knowing that there's so many opportunities for you to do so many different things.
Hell yeah. Love that.
I love it.
But it's good. The conversation's flowing. It feels good, So it's like it's good.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and out of your busy schedule to hop up on here and just kind of speak your truth and give out advice to other people. So it is appreciated. It's appreciated. We thank you very much.
Very, very much. And I just think it was important to let people know, like, yes, like these are options. These are things that you can do.
Yeah.
It's not completely closed off to a certain group of people. Like we all can be.
Absolutely.
We could all be good.
Especially with how much we talk about therapy on here.
Yeah.
I was like, we got to get a therapist on the show.
Absolutely.
We need to get a therapist up on here and let people know what's really good about it and what's really going on.
That's facts. That's facts. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any? Does anybody have any questions, or do you have any questions, Ashley?
I don't think I have any questions.
Anybody in the chat, you guys? And you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any closing statements in the chat?
We're gonna give them a minute though, because this is a little delayed.
So
we'll give him a beat.
Give him a beat.
Okay.
But yeah, we definitely appreciate it, like Shelby said. It's great to have you on. And
absolutely.
Just so much good information, girl. Like I don't know if you realize, like some of the stuff that you said I'm gonna be thinking about this tonight.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna have a whole geeky conversation over some Wawa subs after this. Have a whole conversation.
Please. Make sure y'all eat, please.
We are so hungry. That is self-care right there, and it's self-care.
Yes,
that is eating self-care for me, because I don't be doing it enough. I really don't.
Ooh, I do have a question. I mean, it's related to self-care. do you schedule your self-care? Or do you burn out and then schedule your self-care?
It's a mixture
Yep.
of both. It depends on the season. Yeah,
Yeah.
usually it depends. It depends. Like usually right now I'm okay, but usually during the middle of the year, I probably every season I switch my schedule. So sometimes before, like I'm gonna say like a year ago, I used to intentionally take off. I would rotate either Wednesday or Friday because I felt like Wednesday I would burn out. I don't know why. Wednesday I would just burn out. And then I worked like Thursday, Friday, I was good. And then, I ended up working Monday. It was like Monday through Thursday. So right now I do schedule it because I was hitting the gym at 5 a.m. So that's like my self-care.
Okay,
that.
girl,
And
good
then
for you.
and part of my self-care now is I don't work past 3 p.m. And
I know
and that's
that's
usually 4
right.
days a week. And
that.
then, I do Tuesday late days, but that is my intentional self-care. I make sure I'm done and I could get home, have an hour to chill, and then I get my son off the bus. So right now it's intentional, it's scheduled, but there has been times where I'm like, I'm about to crash out, like the young kids be saying, I'm about to crash out, and I feel it.
Girl.
We hit that age.
Yeah.
Girl.
I knew that. I knew
Yeah.
that was a young kid saying because I was like crashed out.
Something.
I
Yeah,
never
a
heard
few of
that
my
shit.
friends were saying it, and I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, like wig out. We used to say like wig out or bug out, and I'm like,
Yeah. Bug out, wig
So,
out.
yeah.
Oh, that's what it means. Crashed out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I did not know that until
Hashtag,
right now.
hashtag 30s. Hashtag
Literally,
not young.
hashtag 30s.
Yeah, God,
Absolutely.
Somebody sent me something the other day, and I was like, "I'm sorry, but what does this mean?"
Thanks.
I was like, "You got to tell me." I don't know. I tried to Google it, and I just got more confused. I was like, "I don't think you're using this in the right context."
Like the whole demure shit. Sorry.
Oh yeah, that's
Anyways.
interesting.
I had to Google it too. I was like, let me Google
Yeah,
this.
like, what is going on? So, but again, it looks like we didn't have any additional comments, which is cool.
Okay.
But we again want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Definitely thank you for joining us today and just giving us some really good and valuable information.
Absolutely.
What we can do, we'll definitely add your link. Like when the episode is posted, we'll put your link and stuff in there. If you have any other websites and resources that you would like me to add, I can definitely add those into the to the video as well.
Yeah.
Just so people can have those resources to find out what's available to them in their areas.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for being on here. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. So we're gonna wrap up real quick. What was I gonna say? Oh, for anybody who's here or who's going to be listening to this in the future, like, share, follow, subscribe. Definitely hit that subscribe button, so that you can, if you're on Twitch or if you're on YouTube, it'll give you a notification letting you know when we're going live. It'll also let you know when the edited version is out because we are posting that video, the edited video, on YouTube. This full. I think the majority of this video will be posted on YouTube, but in other lives, we do have our full lives that are unedited on our Patreon. You can always go check that out. Deidre and I are also working on some little side projects to also add to Patreon as well.
Yeah.
But definitely hit that subscribe button on Twitch. If you're on Twitch, just click it. Just click it real quick. But we appreciate all the support and the love that you guys have given us. And it's just been a really cool ride. I just want to say that it's been really dope doing this podcast. So,
yeah, for sure.
Until next time, guys.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.